of Kurdish territory. Now, with the U.S. effectively out of the area, President Erdogan of Turkey and Russian President Vladimir Putin signed a power-sharing deal this week for the region, changing the dynamic in the Middle East. Amna, what does this deal mean for Russia as it tries to have more of a presence in the Middle East?
It means exactly that. Russia has much more of a presence and much more influence it can exert
to what end?
In that space. Well, for a number of reasons. One is just part of a larger geopolitical sphere, right, that they're more aligned with Turkey now. Turkey is closer to them on a number of ends. We saw this previously with tensions between Turkey and the U.S. and a deal for an air missile defense system called the S-400. They bought from the Russians. The U.S. didn't like it. There have been tensions for a while between the U.S. and Turkey, which is a NATO ally, we should remember. But that alliance that the U.S. had with the Kurdish-led forces on the ground, the SDF forces that they stood up, that was always a tenuous alliance because the stronger alliance was always with Turkey. So it was never a question of when the U.S. was going to leave, because we knew the U.S. would have to leave at some point. The big question, of course, was how they were going to leave. And by all accounts, including a senior State Department official I spoke to the day after that call between President Trump and President Erdogan, it was total chaos in terms of how that decision was reached.
Catherine, why inside of this White House did you have President Trump and many of his advisors pulling back on sanctions on Turkey, giving President Erdogan essentially what he wants?
I think the president was looking to resolve this, and I think anytime you think about this president's foreign policy, you really have to think about it in the America First frame. And the thing that he keeps coming back to is getting troops out of these regions, reducing our presence abroad. And I think this sort of fed into that idea still, that he was able to at least try and get some troops out. He was able to sort of try and declare.
Is it part of his 2020 pitch?
Well, certainly I was at his rally in Texas last week, and he talks a lot about trying to reduce, engagement in foreign wars or long-standing foreign conflicts, and that's very popular with his base.
The problem, though, is that he's still potentially sending more troops to protect oil fields with no allies now, and those troops that he's pulling out aren't immediately coming home.
America's presence in the Middle East increased in the week that he was ending endless wars. They sent 1,800 troops to Saudi.
And they're actually more in danger now because they don't have a capable ally who's potentially inclined to stick their necks out again for, helping protect the U.S. troops that are on the ground.
What does this mean for the Kurds in the region, this new deal?
It's not a great deal for the Kurds. The Kurds lost their strongest ally when we stepped away and turned our back on them. The Kurds are kind of sitting ducks now because nobody likes the Kurds in the region. The Turks think that they are, supporting what the Turks consider to be a terrorist element within their country. They want to have just established land rights, basically. They've got some of that in Iraq, but the Syrian government doesn't like them that much either. They are left now having to take the deal that the Russians brokered. And look, the thing to remember also about Russia is that they are very good at manipulating instability in countries along their borders to maintain control. That's a dangerous game in the Middle East right now, and we have lost an important foothold in one of the most dangerous areas, and the stakes of that could be catastrophic going forward.
You have to give Donald Trump points for accuracy. It is true that they have wanted this for a long time. But they is Turkey.
Yeah.
They've wanted to clear out the Kurds for a long time.
Correct.
And I was in Baghdad on Monday, and I interviewed the president of Iraq, Barham Saleh. He is one of the most important Kurdish figures in the world. He led Iraqi Kurdistan. He was tortured by Saddam Hussein when he was a child. And he said to me he is sick, worried about ethnic cleansing, about the fear of ethnic cleansing. And when he heard, and you just imagine to Barham Saleh's ears when he hears the President of the United States say it needed to be cleaned up. That was like a quote that Trump said about the Kurds. To Barham Saleh's ears with that history, that is a chilling phrase.
Beyond the Iraqi president, what does the world make of what happened this week?
There's also the very sudden undoing of what has been longstanding U.S. policy in the region that happened over a phone call between two individuals. I mean, all the gains that were made to counter ISIS in the region, that were done on the backs and on the lives of those Kurdish-led forces, those could be undone by ceding that territory to parties that aren't as interested in fighting them as the U.S. was. We've also got those forces now being forced back into the arms of Bashar al-Assad, which is the only place they're going to find security right now. That's not good for the U.S.
We expect Republicans